Hello there, and welcome to this awesome video that's all about the connection and collaboration between Elevated Studio and Eastwick Friends and Neighbor Coalition. I am Christelle, your host and facilitator, and I have here Brian Bear with us from Elevated Studio and Ramona Rousseau Reed here from EFNC, Eastwick Friends and Neighbors Coalition. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell us more about each organization. But really, what we want to highlight here, of course, we want to highlight Elevated Studio, and we want to talk about the collaboration between the two as well. This is a campaign that EFNC is doing to spotlight organizations that are having a positive impact on the community. So let's go ahead and start with you, Brian. Thank you again so much for agreeing to do this with us. And I would love for you to introduce yourself, let us know more about Elevated Studio, and of course, your connection. How do you know the lovely Ramona here in EFNC?
Sure, great. Thanks, Christelle. Thanks, Ramona, for making the connection. Afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Bear. I am the founder and executive director and president of the Elevated Studio. We are a national nonprofit dedicated to providing long-term recovery services to survivors. And I'm going to read our mission statement because I wrote it so many years ago, 10 to be exact, that I don't have it memorized. But the Elevated Studio promotes social equity by expanding access to socially responsive design that helps communities achieve economic and physical resilience and sustainability. So what does that mean? Well, a neighborhood or a community is affected by a natural disaster. Um, those households that can self-recover or self-select do so willingly and efficiently and sometimes effectively. Those that do not fall through the cracks of recovery, and that's where we step in. So our goal is to provide an interweaving of responsible social services. So think of case management, financial management, education of the survivors towards achieving their social and economic resilience and sustainability. And we marry that with the brick and mortar side of things, the architecture, the building components of recovery. I liken it, and I date myself when I say this, to Wonder Twins. So we use our Wonder Twin powers to marry the social service side of things to the physical side of things to create a holistic survivor-centric recovery. So what that does for the survivor is it enables them when the next event occurs to recover in days or weeks rather than months or years. And we find that our practice, our nonprofit that intersects with the community gives them a clearer understanding of what their responsibility is as individuals and as a community to recover, both within their own domicile or as a neighborhood, or as a city or as the county as a whole. Um, Again, to prevent themselves from the wash, rinse, repeat cycle that is long-term recovery. Because we are a member of National VOAD, VOAD stands for Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. You may have heard of some of our larger partner agencies, such as the American Red Cross, Salvation Army, Team Rubicon, and some of our smaller agencies like the Elevated Studio or All Hands and Hearts. We were working with Pennsylvania VOAD, specifically Southeast Pennsylvania VOAD, which services Philadelphia County and the other four ring counties in the immediate response from COVID-19 back in March of 2020. And our work then with Super VOAD was to minimize, if not eliminate, foreclosures or evictions within the housing market. As an architect myself, housing, especially maintaining quality housing and affordable housing, is near and dear to my heart. And therefore it's near and dear to the Elevated Studios heart. So that was our first full response and activation within southeastern Pennsylvania. And then Tropical Storm Isaias hit on August 4th, 2020. SEPA VOAD stood up a long-term recovery group within Eastwick. And that's when we were introduced to Eastwick United, Eastwick Friends and Neighbors Coalition, Philadelphia Office of Emergency Management, and a whole host of other agencies that support recovery in southeastern Pennsylvania and specifically in Philadelphia. So from that initial standing up of the LTRG in October of that year, we performed assessments on individual homes. We led volunteer construction crews. We coordinated with the city officials and the on-the-ground NGOs like EFNC and EU, and created the Eastwick Unmet Needs Roundtable, where we were able to achieve a great accomplishment for a non-declared disaster event, where we were able to help over 56 households in their recovery, rebuilding homes to achieve a higher level of resilience and sustainability. And it's been a love fest ever since. And we look forward to maintaining that relationship with our friends in Eastwick Friends and Neighbors Coalition. So I will throw it back to you, Christelle.
Okay, awesome, Brian. Thank you so much for letting us know more about Elevated Studio. And now I'd love to pass it to Ramona Rousseau Reed. Rousseau, did I say that right? I'm used to just calling Ramona.
Right.
And have you introduce yourself, please. Let us know your role with EFNC, a little bit more about Eastwick Friends and Neighbors Coalition and the connection with Elevated Studio. And then Brian, I'd love to ask you more questions about Elevated Studio as well.
Sure.
I am Ramona Rousseau Reed, 37-year resident of the Eastwick community. I'm also the vice president of Eastwick Friends and Neighbors Coalition and a founding member since 2012. I became acquainted, or we became acquainted with Elevated Studios through VOAD, Volunteer Organizations Active in Disaster, as Brian mentioned earlier. And when they came to Philadelphia to help us with the rebuild and restoration of our community after the Isaias tropical storm of August 4th, 2020, Brian and his company, Elevated Studios, is a partner of the VOAD national organization, nonprofit. And when they came to the Eastwick community, they were new to us. We had no idea. As Brian mentioned, we were introduced by the Office of Emergency Management because Isaias had come through and ravaged a huge portion of our community. So there was need for flood victims at that time, they are survivors now, to get help. We were not given the disaster declaration, so there were no federal funds available. And VOAD came in to save the day pretty much. How we became partners is we, as Brian mentioned, formed a committee called the Eastwick Unmet Needs Roundtable, EUNR. And there were several members of the community and members of the Eastwick Friends and Neighbors Coalition and Eastwick United Community Organization, now CDC, to make decisions and to work in collaboration with other nonprofits and faith-based organizations to get volunteers to come in and do the work that was needed under Brian's direction. I came to understand that Brian's a dedicated advocate and not just an architect, but a man of compassion. And this is reflected in his kindness and his commitment to do the work here in the Eastwick community.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks,
And
Ramona.
I'd love to build on that a little bit,
Go
Brian,
for it. Yeah.
Because you said you're the founder of
Mm.
Elevated Studio, and was it founded 10 years ago? You said was about
Yeah.
10 years ago. So I'd love if you could give us a little bit of the origin story, like what made you
Yeah.
decide to start Elevated Studio?
Unmet needs, really. Like many nonprofits that got their start in disaster recovery. We got ours post Hurricane Sandy. We're based in New York. So there was a very large unmet need for homeowners to rebuild responsibly. And so from the time it took us to drive, myself and my team at the time, to drive from Babylon, New York to Brooklyn. Babylon is in the middle of Long Island, which is about a 2-hour drive with traffic. The Elevated Studio was born. So that trip happened the Wednesday before Christmas in 2014, and we opened our doors on January 2nd, 2015.
Wow.
So, and we haven't stopped since.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been a really great journey. I've got a great team. I've got a fantastic board that keeps us all on our toes and in check. And we couldn't do it without them. So we're pretty jazzed up about who we are and where we're going.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how did the connection with VOAD come about? Because that seems like a really,
Yeah, so
big
there aren't very many nonprofit agencies, faith-based agencies, non-governmental agencies that operate in the disaster recovery world, especially when we talk about long-term recovery
Mhm.
or mitigation or preparedness. So, I mean, you hear a lot about agencies responding immediately after an event, right? So we call that the response phase. So American Red Cross, Salvation Army, a lot of agencies jump into an event and take on that response activity in partnership with municipal, county, state, federal emergency management agencies or authorities or whatever the term is that particular agency is using. Why VOAD? Well, VOAD actually stood up 51 years ago after a very, very large scale event that happened in Texas. Hurricane Camille, you may have heard of it.
Yep.
Yeah. So half a dozen founding partners, Catholic Charities, Red Cross, Salvation Army, St. Vincent de Paul. I know there were a couple of others that I'm missing, but they stood up and created VOAD. So when we founded ourselves, we got our sea legs about us in year 1, and then year 2 we put in our application, and we've been a member since 2016.
That's amazing. So basically from the beginning.
From the jump.
Yeah. And our Ramona here, I know she's humble, so she won't say this, but she's the VOAD Volunteer of the Year, which is awesome.
Yeah.
We're so proud.
Yeah.
Ramona, why don't you tell us a little bit more about, I'd love to hear more about this Eastwick Unmet Needs Roundtable, because that seems to be a place where, both organizations connected. And then I'd love to end the interview talking about any desires and hopes for the future of collaboration between both organizations. So yeah, Ramona, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the Eastwick Unmet Needs Roundtable?
Sure. So we came together, Eastwick Friends and Neighbors Coalition and all the other members that formed that committee, Eastwick Unmet Need Roundtables. We met in January of 2021. So things started to happen very quickly. And through that period, actually a 5-year period, because all of the restoration repairs were completed this year. Thank you very much for that, Brian. We met every Friday to discuss and collaborate on the plans and things that needed to be done to bring Eastwick back to life again. And Brian was always a part of that, of course, because Brian also served as the connector between the Philadelphia Housing Authority in Philadelphia and also EUNR. We talked about, oh my gosh, Brian directed the scheduling with the volunteers and assessing the damages that needed to be corrected, which was very challenging because here he was, a stranger coming into a community that had suffered numerous broken promises from various sources on the state, federal, and local level. It was pretty much a lifestyle to not trust strangers or outsiders. So for Brian to have this challenge of coming into homes, meeting people, meeting the homeowners and the residents and stakeholders, and having to have those conversations about going over their damages and repairs that were needed, and being compassionate and have empathy for people who are suffering, not just because of the loss of property or treasures, but who did not know what the future was going to hold. Some people had coverage, some people did not. Some people didn't have enough coverage. So bridging this gap and creating this partnership had to be an incredible challenge for Elevated Studios to make things happen so that people would trust, open their doors, have those conversations, and put their lives really in their hands.
That's amazing. And Brian, you said it was 56 households,
Mhm.
right, that you were
Yes.
able to serve. So yeah, I would love to hear any closing thoughts from you, Brian, as far as anything else that you'd like to share about Elevated Studio, any hopes for the future, both for Elevated Studio, but also any collaborations with EFNC. And then we'll start to wrap up.
Yeah. But anybody who starts a nonprofit does it out of an unmet need, right? And the hope is that the work that we do puts us out of a job, right? Unfortunately, I don't see that happening with our role in recovery, mitigation, and preparedness. There's always going to be an event, whether it's declared or not, where people fall through the cracks and they need to be educated and they need to understand their rights and they need the assistance that they need in order to recover more responsibly so that they're not throwing their own money or someone else's money out the window, right? We see this time and time again. So my hope is that while yes, I want to put the Elevated Studio out of business because our services aren't needed anymore.
Yeah.
Not for any other reason than that. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. We have multiple recovery programs going on, not just in Southeast Pennsylvania, but also elsewhere around the country, because that's where our services and our brand of long-term recovery is needed and warranted. Where I see us continuing our collaboration with EFNC and the good people of Eastwick is to one, continue that education on what they can do to self-serve and self-recover should another event happen. To better educate the homeowners or be a part of the better education of the homeowners on what they can do to prepare themselves and their family and their household to mitigate future extreme weather events. And then if there are other opportunities to help the decision-making process between the neighborhood and the city in any future development that occurs within the boundaries of Eastwick, we hope we get invited to come and listen and ask questions and provide answers as the case may be. So that's our hope.
That's awesome. I hear a mission of empowerment.
Yes,
Brought up resiliency. You both brought up, you know,
definitely.
this term resiliency, wanting neighborhoods and communities to be able to recover on their own and without help. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. This has been great. It's been really a pleasure to learn more about Elevated Studio, and I look forward to more collaboration between EFNC and Elevated Studio. Thank you, Ramona. And I'll just give a quick, for some of you that are watching this before July 23rd, there is a community meeting that EFNC is hosting, and there will be some representatives there from Pennsylvania and Philadelphia. I won't say who because, things change last minute, but come find out. It'll be on July 23rd, Wednesday from 6 to 8. We hope to see you there. And we're already planning another one for September 11th as well, where one of our board members will be giving a presentation about microplastics in the body and how this is impacting especially children. So please stay posted, and thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Ramona, again. Thank you, Brian, again. And
Thank you.
Of you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate this.